Hello, hey. I'm back here to talk to you about the cool stuff regarding history and archaeology. Since my last video about the Birka warrior, there was a couple of questions for me, which I appreciate so much. Thank you very much. And I combined all of these different questions into one. Can a single bone actually change human history? Today we are exploring aDNA a little bit. Human beings have always been drawn to the past, to ancient bones, lost cities, and the mystery of where we came from. Let me tell you that hidden inside a fragment of bone, not bigger than a coin, lies the power to completely rewrite human history. Welcome to the world of ancient DNA, or aDNA. aDNA has shook up the very foundations of how we view our identity, our roots, and our future as human beings. Archaeology is currently surviving and thriving through what is known as the third science revolution. Not everyone believes that we are going through the third science revolution, but most archaeologists would agree. This is rooted in science and articles written by Christian Christiansen. So if we are on the third science revolution within archaeology right now, what about the other two? The first science revolution took place in the 19th century, so the 1800s. That was when archaeology teamed up with geology and biology and started looking at history through a more evolutionary lens than a Bible lens. The second revolution came during the 20th century, so the 1900s. And this is when radiocarbon dating became possible. Suddenly you could take a biological artifact and date it, see approximately when was it made or when did it end up in the dirt. Which takes us to the third science revolution, which is in the now, and it is regarding aDNA and big data. Scientists can now extract genetic material from remains thousands of years old, even when they are incredibly degraded. The labs required for this are cleaner than a hospital operating room, using UV lights and filtered air to prevent modern humans from accidentally contaminating the past. And the discoveries, well, they have completely shattered our old assumptions. And this is the part where I raise my little finger, because this little part here is how we discovered a completely different hominin, the Denisovans. In 2010, in a Siberian cave, scientists found a single little pinky finger, or like one of the bones in the pinky finger. The assumption was that it might have belonged to a Neanderthal. Instead, the DNA code didn't match anything that we had on record. It is through the genetic mutations and the overlap and the differences that we could actually find new hominin species. And this is how the Denisovans were discovered. And from that discovery, it was made possible to start mapping out other finds and similarities. But we would not have known of their existence if it wasn't for that little pinky bone and aDNA. And I know that DNA and, scientific stuff, it can feel a bit scary due to what the media has shown us, but also due to the nefarious intentions of humans sometimes. One instant thought would be that, but with DNA, it could easily separate human beings from each other. We could start putting each other into boxes, and we could start, looking at differences instead of being inclusive and so on. The thing is that is completely up to the human being, isn't it? aDNA actually debunks this kind of separation kind of thinking. Let me explain. For a long time, an old theory called the multi-regional hypothesis wrongly suggested that different human races evolved entirely separately on different continents. This would have meant that people over in Asia, in Africa, over the Americas, and so on and so forth, that we all evolved to be basically completely... We are not from the same. Like, we are different, completely different types of human beings. Which is not true. aDNA completely crushed this hypothesis. By tracking genetic mutations, scientists proved that we all share a common maternal ancestor who lived in Africa roughly 200,000 years ago. This maternal ancestor is often referred to as mitochondrial Eve, like in the Bible, Eve. For transparency's sake, we are not talking about like one maternal grandmother. We are talking about a couple, but they all originated from the same area and in the same time. So, but it is easier to refer to it as mitochondrial Eve, but there was a couple of Eves and Adams doing their thing, 200,000 years ago, which shows us that we are not as different as we would like to think sometimes. And there is something beautiful with human beings starting out from one place and then letting the winds and sands and waters and temperatures of the earth, like our home, to shape us into being different heights and weights and colors and with different shapes. I don't know, there's something beautiful, like when you find a rock that has been shaped by the ocean, or even better, a glass, like someone has crushed a glass bottle and thrown it into the ocean, and then years and years later the salt and the sand in the ocean has made it into like this beautiful little rock almost, You know what I'm saying? It is something beautiful about how our environment has shaped us like that. Since this video came out of my other video about the Birka warrior, that is a point number 3 into why aDNA is a good thing. It actually doesn't care about what we think or what we feel about things. It gives us black on white. This individual in this grave is a woman. This individual in that grave is a man, etc., etc. And then it's up to us to interpret what that means. And this has happened to more recent graves as well. Take the Vasa ship, for example. This is from the 7th century. There was a huge battleship in Sweden named Vasa, and it sank. There was an assumed male skeleton on this ship that turned out to be a female. So aDNA kind of forces our hands a little bit and makes us take a little bit of more accountability of our modern biases about the past. It kind of, slaps us on the hand and says, up, 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 up. Agency existed back then as well. There is, of course, a dark side to DNA as well. Every revolution has a counter-revolution. Because aDNA deals with identity and heritage, it has become a political minefield. Sadly, the science has occasionally been weaponized. People with racist or hyper-nationalistic agendas, they also love to cherry-pick genetic data to try to prove things, like, for example, racial purity, or to claim one ancient group was inherently superior or more intelligent than another. Even famous minds have fallen into this trap. This is James Watson. He's actually one of the co-discoverers of the DNA structure. He's a very, very, very smart man. And he lost all of his honorary titles after making claims of these sorts about race and intelligence and women and There was also a whole controversy with Nicholas Wade. He published a book where he tried to link genetics to modern economic success and, of course, IQ. It was heavily rejected in an open letter by over 100 leading geneticists. They felt like he was twisting their science into guesswork. Even well-meaning scientists can get into trouble if they present old genetic data without proper cultural context. It is a very, very, very debated and sensitive topic, understandably so. This is something that touched the whole Yamnaya discussion within archaeology, which is another episode for us to talk about who are the Yamnaya and what did they do. If scientists says that like a specific gene pool moved across Europe, then you can trust that sensationalism within journalism might write that as it has been an ancient invasion, which, fuels a whole lot of other contemporary things going on in our society and is then used to play into political fear. Most scientists are just nerds and are excited if they make discoveries. They're not usually very concerned with how to be perceived in the public eye, especially with modern politics. That is where journalistic sensationalism has kind of, gotten people into trouble with these things. This leads us into the topic of data versus soul. A very modern topic. The truth is that DNA without archaeology is just data. And archaeology without ethics is just excavation and collection. Your genetics is biological, but your identity is cultural and filled with context. An ancient strand of DNA could tell us where our ancestors walked, but it cannot really tell us about their language, about their beliefs, about their worth, or about what they saw through their own eyes during their lifetime, what tastes they liked and what sounds they enjoyed, and so on and so forth. The past is not a static place. It's very easy to forget that when we're reading in history books and watching cool documentaries. The past was never static or pure or homogeneous. Human history is a story of constant movement and mixing and adapting and surviving. So the next time you see like this sensational language like science proves definitely without doubt that da-da-da-da-da-da about ancient culture, you can go, oh cool, and then you have to pause and ask yourself, who is telling the story? Are they a believable narrator? And are they actually talking about history, or are they trying to control the future? I want to know your thoughts. Do you think that aDNA is just creepy, or do you think it's fantastic and cool and it could actually lead to something very, very, very interesting for the future? Or is it just creepy stuff? I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below. I will go out now because it is really, really, really warm and I haven't gotten sunshine on my face yet today, so I would really, really want to do that. Anyway, thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Hej då!